Aaron Rodgers finds himself in all sorts of controversy. He finds himself on a football team that was bad once again, injuries, et cetera, et cetera. Well, he has decided to speak out on the state of the franchise, and he called out his own franchise for what they need to do to get back on track next year.
What do you think, just as a team, you guys can learn from what happened this year, especially like the stuff of being in the spotlight, like these guys really hadn't been before at this level?
Anything that doesn't have anything to do with winning needs to be assessed. So anything in this building that we're doing individually or collectively that has nothing to do with real winning needs to be assessed. Everything that we do has to have a purpose too. When you step in the building, there's intentionality with everything that you do. And it's not a half the time thing, it's not a sometimes thing, it's not a most of the time thing, it's an every time thing. If you want to be a winning organization and to put yourself in position to win championships, everything that you do matters. And the that has nothing to do with winning needs to get out of the building.
So, a lot going on there. And
well, it just sounds like he's calling out a dysfunctional building.
Yeah.
And I just wonder how far up the totem pole is he talking about that assessment? Because some people you just can't get rid of that bloop in the building. Believe me, some of us know that as a fact. Like generations of players that have played in dysfunctional organizations know for a fact that if you're doing the assessment of getting anything and everything out of the building that has nothing to do with winning, sometimes that's a very, very difficult proposition to execute on.
I wonder when he realized, oh God, this isn't Green Bay. Like there's a lot going on here.
This is New York. So when I say things like that, well, in Green Bay you could get away with it, but in New York, no, maybe not so much.
Sauce Gardner, he spoke yesterday, and he was talking about just sort of where things went awry for the organization. Let's take a listen.
It's off season. We just got to make sure we keeping the main thing. We got to make sure we just grind our head down, grind it, because I feel like even though we were saying it, some of the stuff in the off season, like Aaron and all of that, like hard knocks, I feel like we really lost track of some things. So I feel like it's a lot of games we could have been much better. It's a lot of scenarios, a lot of cases we could have been much better.
I mean, I'm not saying that he's calling out Rodgers, but when Rodgers is talking about the BS that was surrounding the organization, what came with Rodgers was a lot of noise. And I don't know that that's all.
And a lot of expectations, too.
Yeah, but I don't know that that's necessarily Rodgers' fault, but he does do his weekly interviews. He is, hard knocks, had to have the Jets. Like, it felt like this team was maybe almost doomed from the get-go. And they're going to be much better off maybe not having all of the expectations that go into next year, because, Rodgers can say, I want to be here longer than just next year. Dude, if they have a disappointing season again next year, everybody's gone. Like, Robert Saleh, he'll probably have to shave, too. Like, everybody's gone. Like, Joe
That's
Douglas,
funny.
like, everybody would be out the door. So it just feels like this next year, I'm fascinated to see what the approach is, because I can't imagine that they're going to want all the buzz and all the hype that came along with what this season was.
But the business of professional sports is to sell hope. That's what sells tickets. That's what sells, jerseys. It just there's a lot of commerce and e-commerce connected to selling hope in the off season. So I don't see that slowing down. Aaron Rodgers is a lightning rod for headlines and for media attention. I don't see that slowing down. And it'll be interesting. This is where Robert Saleh has to take a last stand and really, really manage how things are done this offseason, because you sold an entire season on Aaron Rodgers coming back. Like, even if Aaron Rodgers comes back, like, let's be clear here, that was not rectifying any type of problem that they found themselves in by the time Aaron Rodgers was coming back. So if you're a New York Jets fan, or if you're someone who's paying attention to the game, that had to be alarming that your biggest storyline the entire season was Aaron Rodgers' attempt to come back.
Right.
It should have been winning. And, oh, my gosh, we get Aaron Rodgers back next year. That was not the case. So I think Sauce Gardner was spot on, right on point with what his sentiments were. Like, you got to earn the reputation of being as good as people were making the Jets out to be. We as media created this false narrative that now, because Aaron Rodgers walks into the building, they're immediately a Super Bowl contending team. And there's a lot that has to go into being a Super Bowl contending team. And a lot of those things can be covered up and can be made to look better than what it is by a player of Aaron Rodgers, his abilities and what he brings to the table. But that doesn't cure all ills. And I think if there was a message to take away from this season, if I'm the New York Jets, is very much that. Is Aaron Rodgers is one person, he's one player. He represents one single entity. And for what it's worth, if I'm a player, respectfully, I honestly may feel after this season, he's a singular entity that certainly represents his own best interests. And that could be interpreted by the way he was out in front of the media, the way that he was, and a lot of what maybe he said during his weekly interviews, man, it did more damage than it did good for this team. And so if I'm a player, I'm not basing my success or failures off of one player. You have too much talent on that team. So that needed to be a wake-up call. And if I'm Robert Saleh, I'm managing expectations. And while you got to sell hope, I think that you have to find a healthy balance as to how you approach what you're going to do this offseason, because I don't know that Aaron Rodgers returning makes this team much better than what they are if there aren't aspects of what they have going on that are improved and much better than what they were. And I think that's what Sauce Gardner touched on.
Listen, they got to fix their O-line. I'm not so concerned about the defense, but damn, man.
Yeah, but the defense fell apart during the course of the season as well.
Yeah, but I mean, how long can you carry that team before you're like, oh, screw it, my arms are tired? You know what I mean? Like, I'm putting this down. Like, are we moving this couch inside or not? Like, and it just felt like, all right, if this is, at that point the season was lost and it was a wrap. I mean, so it's going to be.
You do know that there's the chance and the opportunity that a guy at Aaron Rodgers' age could possibly get banged up again.
Oh yeah, I know.
So it can't be any excuses. If you're trying to win, if you're saying, oh, well, we're tired of playing defense, Zach Wilson isn't getting it done, we can't get it done without Aaron Rodgers, then y'all should have said it. Y'all should have told the media, told the fans, told everybody that we're punting on the season. Instead, you built this crazy-ass narrative that all we got to do is hang in there until Aaron Rodgers gets back this season.
God, it was actually pretty amazing the way they were able to pull that off.
I thought it was loser ball. Personally,
I mean,
if you're looking at it from a very critical eye and you remove yourself from the fandom of what that could possibly mean, I think it's loser ball. Because you have a season to play. And Aaron Rodgers should have been put on the shelf. The conversation should have been put on the shelf. I think in the end, when we look back on this season and you look back on the Jets and how they handled the Aaron Rodgers injury, it was a tremendous miss. It was a tremendous miss because not only did you not allow your fan base to move on and say, let's gut up and let's knuckle up as a fan base and support our team and move on and have this season, you did it to your team. How do you think those players are feeling in the locker room? Our salvation and our hope all hinges upon a guy who tore his Achilles tendon 4 plays into the season, and we got to try to survive in hopes that this man from a torn Achilles injury can actually come back and be a part of saving our season. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that probably did more damage than it did any good if you're looking at it from a critical perspective as it applies to the New York Jets.